Yeah, I guess what I was saying is that these three Protoss pretty like they usually make it to the semis, and then whoever
Right.
else is with them is kind of up in the air. Like who's it gonna be?
Right,
It's gonna
yeah.
be Solar, it's gonna be Armani, Scarlet, the Senator.
Who's gonna be the non-Protoss hope of the week?
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much.
Now we're asking if someone's casting in English here. We're all casting in English here, my dude.
Where's Wardy?
Oh. Yeah, he wasn't in.
Oh god, and I don't think any of us. I don't think anyone here is
I don't
ref.
think we're refs.
Rip.
That's a new.
Yeah, I noticed and
Yeah, sorry about that, Wardy. Hopefully we can get you in on the next one. Oh, he meant to cast Doyu Cup. Okay.
oh, okay, thank God.
Thank Christ.
Okay.
I was willing to be. I was getting ready. I was getting ready to be like, no, Wardy, we
Yeah,
failed
yeah.
you. We failed you, my dude. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, same. I was honestly concerned, but it does seem like
I was getting ready to repent.
Yeah, Wardy, he does have commitments to Doyu Cup. Like, he is the official English stream for that, so he's gone. And I guess we are the quote-unquote official English stream now.
Us and Renegade, at least, yeah.
Yes, us and Renegade.
Alrighty then, now that that's clear out of the way, we are going to be going on to Everdream, L.E. Ideally Edle. We're in the top right-hand corner map, spawning all the way in the top right-hand corner map. We have the blue Protoss player coming out all the way from the land of Korea, but also blessing the reigns down in Africa. He is going to be representing the Africa Freaks. We have Nick Fury himself. Stats, boys.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Everdream LE, we have the other Korean Protoss player representing Raise Your Edge Gaming, RYEG. It is Zest.
Oh boy, and we're having a bit of a clash of the titans right here. The two top Protoss players in 2020. Again, I think Stats is overall just has a little bit of a higher win rate than Zest, but honestly, these two are pretty neck and neck this year.
Yeah. And I really appreciate everyone in the chat is on top of it. They're also letting us know. Yep, Wardy is casting Doyu. So,
His watch has ended.
His watch has ended, but ours continues. Oh boy, and yeah, you were pointing it out. Like these two, they've gone back and forth. Of course, the official stats, the stats are out. That stats he does have on paper the better win rates. But of course, no one has 100% win rate. There are always, these, the ones that they lose. And if it's going to be to anyone, it's going to be to someone like Zest.
Exactly. Yeah, really, what are Titans coming out here, and both of them having having quite a bit of different styles here. I think, we're not in 2014 anymore, we're not in the days where they were both on KT and sort of had a symbiotic relationship with one another.
Yeah, they were the KT boys, Stats, Zest, TY, Flash, like they were kind of iconic in their, in their station there, and yeah.
Exactly, and I think somebody pointed it out, but I think it might have been Stuchu, that, the team that you're on early in your career will kind of influence how your overall playstyle will be going on. And to me, when I think of KT, I think of the macro players. Zest nowadays, you don't normally think of him as much of a macro player because, he's been doing a lot more aggressive builds, a lot more all-ins, he's the inventor of the Adept Printer. But that was definitely true back in the day, and it's still true for players like TY and Stats and whatnot.
Yeah. So we can see that now, like that we've kind of gone away from that team house environment. That Zest has kind of broken free from his chains, and now he's a little bit more crazy nowadays. He isn't just your typical macro Protoss.
Yeah, he is not defined by KT.
Exactly. He is his own person, his own man. And speaking of which, he is pushing out across the map with his Immortals, his Warp Prism as well.
Yeah, we talk about aggression. Zest is going to be delivering it, but stats, we talk about Zest's aggression, we also talk a lot about Stats' defense. Already going to be positioned his Stalkers and his Sentries right on top of the choke point, trying to have as good of a fight as he possibly can get.
Ooh, nicely done. Force fields the ramp, delays the push of Zest more and more, and yeah, right now he just needs time, and time he has bought as we have these shield batteries finishing up at the natural.
4 shield batteries and another 2 on the way. Stats is going to be looking impenetrable right now. The only hope for Zest that I can think of. Okay, that definitely helps. Never mind, that definitely helps.
Oh, he got into the main base, and it looks like Zest, he force fielded the ramp as well to block Stats in his main base.
And the shield battery that had battery overcharge has been taken out. Battery overcharge is now going to be on cooldown, and it's not quite a lot of energy here for Stats either. This is looking really, really bad. Looking at this engagement going forward, it looked like Stats was going to be impenetrable, but Zest, somehow he found the chinks in Stats' armor, and he was able to take advantage of that. 7 probes already going down. Ow, oof, owie.
Yeah, and Zest, he's not even committing to this. Like, we thought it was going to be like this big all-in, but he's killed 10 workers, and with that, he can back off, and he can just continue to macro up.
Wow, look at that worker elite right now for Zest. And as you were saying, he's macroing up, he's getting his upgrades. Glaive Adepts are going to be going on the way. And he's going to get a couple more, I imagine a couple more Sentries. He's definitely getting a couple more Immortals. And when he goes for round 2, will Stats have enough to recover?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? Like, I love the way that Zest approached that engagement. And now it's Stats' turn to try and push into the natural of Zest.
Yeah, but Zest showing that he too can play pretty defensively. Having a couple of mistakes here, leaving a couple of his Stalkers in a vulnerable position. And actually, the blink on top of this base, very nicely done from Stats. But this is not quite the multi-prong that he faced earlier on. And this is pretty easily dealt with by Zest. Meanwhile, getting even more probes on the other side of the map. 9 probes go down.
Again, to minimal of depths as well. This was before Resonating Glaives finishes, as it just did after all that damage had been done. And Stats, oh my god, the holes in its armor has been found by Zest.
Yeah, he wasn't all in before, but he definitely is now. And being caught out here as well. He's either going to blink into the main and into death, or going to be forced to blink away and retreat. And he is going to be retreating.
Yeah, and we'll see if he... it looks like he's trying to rotate around, but it looks like Stats, he's catching his army. He's surrounding Stats right now, and Stats, he's doing the best he can with these Stalkers, trying to blink micro and chip away at this army, but Zest, he's having none of it.
Doesn't even care about these Stalkers. He turns right around. That's enough of this.
Oh boy, and to be fair, there are a lot of shield batteries here for Stats, but there just aren't a lot of units, and oh my god, again, the Depths are getting into the main base.
They're trying, but instead they blink forward and surround these Stalkers, and as you were saying, there are a lot of shield batteries. What's going to happen when Zest just targets them down?
They're just gonna fall, and it looks like Zest, he does have a lot of Immortals, and Stats is trying his best. He tried to focus on the Warp Prism, but it's staying alive. Oh, he's focusing down!
But it did go out to these flanking Stalkers, and now the Stalkers coming back in, and Stats just came back into this game. A lot of losses here for Zest. Stats is now back in it. Look at the worker count. They're about evening up. And the armor supply has plummeted for Zest. Okay.
Yeah, Stats, he just never stopped making workers, and Zest did. Like, he was committing to this push, and Stats, with those Stalkers that Zest ignored, right? They came back and they sniped that Warp Prism.
Exactly, and I think another thing that really happened in that game, in that engagement, Zest was really focusing on this one cannon that the battery overcharge was focusing on. I'm not sure what went on there. I think maybe Zest was a little preoccupied. But yeah, that was definitely bought Stats a lot of time, and as you were saying, these stalkers, Zest thought that they were harmless, just ignored them, came back from the grave, and plunged a knife deep into Zest's heart.
Yeah, and again, another War Prism for Zest gets sniped as well. That was on the other side of the map. And Stats, without Immortal, Zest had 2 Immortals, he had all these Glaive Adepts, he had Sentries as well. And despite that, Stats had no Robo units whatsoever. He was able to surround the army, to take it all out. And now Stats, he's in a good position. Like, he's only down by 2 workers. He's ahead in army supply, or now even in army supply.
And he's got his Robo Bay. He's going into Disruptor Tech. Looking at the the units lost tab, that tells you a long and detailed story.
Yeah, definitely. And again, we do see Zest continuing to go for that Adept harass. The Adepts are trying to get into the natural of Stats. They do commit to the shade. They do make it in. So Zest, he's continuing to apply pressure. He's trying to keep Stats at home. But again, like Stats, he does have that tech advantage. He does have those disruptors already on the way. But Zest, he's bought enough time where now he has Blink of his own.
Yeah, could be finishing up right about now. But I am worried, though. He sustained a lot of losses, Zest did, and he was on 2 bases for the longest time. I'm really starting to worry about his economy. Can he, throwing out the possibility of this going into a longer macro game, will Zest have enough if Stats decides to just go for the throat? Will Zest have enough resources to really muster up a defense?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, right now, honestly, like, Zest, for the past minute or so, has been pretty vulnerable, and I was waiting for the moment where Stats dove in with his stalkers to these vulnerable Immortals. But Stats, he was a little bit more conservative. He never went into that engagement. So Zest, he's starting to establish his own third base. Things are kind of evening out at the moment. Zest, though, the disruptors are kind of exposed at the moment. He needs to be a little bit careful.
Zest doesn't see them.
Yeah.
Alright, so a little bit of a cute thing going on there. Once again, Zest trying to go for probe damage, and he's consistently doing a good job. He keeps getting a handful of probes here and there, definitely more than the amount of adepts that he commits to. And now we see it, Zest is now ahead in almost 20 workers, but is that going to be enough considering how long Stats was able to have that lead and get ahead in tech?
Yeah, these Adept run bys are so important for Zest, but now we have Stats finally pushing into the third base of Zest. He even has these disruptors as the backbone of his army, and what does Zest really have here to stop this?
More Prism juggling. Ooh, misses that purification over there. And these Immortals of Zest, I feel like they're not really going to live up to the name. The Disruptor comes in, nice blink backwards. And Zest is going to have to be careful moving into a concave like this. But now pulling the probes, that is a sign of desperation. The Immortals go down. And this looking like the beginning of the end.
Yeah, the Immortals for Zest have fallen. He just has these Blink Stalkers and the War Prism and Disruptors of his own.
And the Disruptors trade blows. Zest actually making his Disruptors a little vulnerable, but a hot pickup coming in. Nice juggling. And funnily enough, we're in a scenario again where both players are just just at a low army supply.
Yeah, and with the reinforcing Stalkers, he takes out the War Prism, he takes out both Disruptors as well, and Stats, he killed 19 workers in that engagement, and now, even if he gets pushed back, he's so far ahead.
He is in terms of the tech, but once again, Zest is not that far behind in the worker supply, especially with 3 Nexuses and Chrono Boost. He can definitely catch up, but important to note, Zest is only now finishing up +1 weapons. Stats is looking for an opportunity to get his +3.
Jesus Christ, Stats is, when it comes to head-on-head engagement, Stalkers versus Stalkers, Stats does have that upgrade advantage to him. He also has, I think, a little bit of a higher disruptor count, as Zest lost quite a few in that previous engagement. I think he's up by 1. But will that matter here? Again, it's very close when it comes to these 2 players and their armies.
Indeed it is. And is his Stats gonna kill another 19 probes once again? He will if Zest decides to pull them. A little bit of a whiff blink there, and yeah, Stats really taking incremental damage over time. This is really risky for Zest to do, and I don't think it's paid off, but it has! A juicy Nova connects right in the heart of Stats' army. but it's not going to be enough here. Stats with reinforcements will be able to force Zest into a GG.
Wow, GG, well played. Stats, it was looking down and out for Stats, like the amount of damage that Zest was doing to him, but Stats, what a guy.
What a guy. There's a reason we call him the Shield of Ire, the director of Shield.
There's a reason why he is Nick Fury himself. Like defensively, like Stats makes magic happen. Like it's just beautiful to see.
Very much so is. There are very few players in StarCraft 2 who can really, go right to the edge of a loss, but then snatch it back and consistently be able to do that. Like right off the top of my head, I'm thinking MVP way back in the day. Nowadays stats. I want to say, who am I thinking of? I want to say Maru, but even then, it usually doesn't translate into a win necessarily. He makes the game even once again, but damage has been done. Yeah,
it was just really impressive to see, like, Stats, like, even though, like, there were moments where he straight up, he was behind, like, whether it be with Workers or with Army, just with his positioning, with the way he was using his Army, with his shield batteries, like, his defensive structures, like, yeah, it was great. What a game one.
What a game number one. And that goes back to, I caught up on chat a little bit. Somebody was mentioning, this is probably, at this moment in time, the highest possible level of PvP. And honestly, I think that kind of shows in game number one. So, yeah, hopefully we'll get, hopefully there'll be more to come in this best of 5 semifinals. And speaking of this best of 5 semifinals, we are now here onto the Pillars of Gold that hold up the golden wall that protect the Eternal Empire, where the LE submarines are kept, and inside the LE submarines, we all reside. In the top right-hand corner of the map, spawning all the way in the top right-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Protoss. And like, here's a question for you: are you free?
Freaka TV.
That is where Stats does like to stream. I believe it's actually part of the clause, but let's say here and there. Representing a Freak of Freaks, coming out all the way from Korea. He is the president of SHIELD. It's Stats. Boys.
And spawning in at the bottom left-hand corner of Pillars of Gold LE, we have the other Korean Protoss player representing Raise Your Edge Gaming, RYEG. It is Zest.
Alright, and yeah, reflecting on the previous game, that's where my mind is still at this moment.
Yeah. Like, it's just great to see. I mean, to be fair, both these players, like, Hurricane and Zaun, I think it also goes to show, like, how much they've improved. They were both able to take maps off of Stats and Zest. But again, like, none of their series, none of their games were anything like what we just saw.
Really wasn't. I mean, we saw that Hurricane versus Stats game number 2 where, that could have gone either way. It was It was very much so, both of them, each of them taking small victories here and there, and in the end, Stats has added up more than Hurricanes. But that Everdream game that we just saw, that was really both of them going down to the wire.
Yeah, definitely, and kind of interesting to see how these two players have opened up this game. We do see Stats here with the full wall off at the natural. Meanwhile, Zest, he walled off on top of his ramp, like in his main, so they're already approaching this very differently.
How differently?
Yeah, we're seeing it again. We got Robo versus Stargate.
Tale as old as time, potentially even older.
I think time is, what, 20?
Yeah, time is my age.
Very good. As old as time. And
I am as old as time. I can say that now.
I guess I can officially say that I'm older than time. Is that... Oh god. And yeah, we'll see how this plays out as Zest does have that proxy, so these immortals will be hitting a little bit faster, a little bit harder. Stats on the other hand, he does have that full wall off, which also means that his production is a little bit vulnerable here at his natural.
That they are, but I think Stats is aware of that, so getting
Void
Rays and throwing down a shield battery. Are we in Wings of Liberty here, Light, or are we in Legacy of the Void?
What a big brain. What a gigantic brain. Stats going for that Void Ray first, as he did scout the main base of Zest. He sussed it out, and Zest, he's here with the Immortal. Oh, he's targeting another pylon.
That is an Artosis pylon, if I've ever seen one. Already depowering almost everything, or just about everything. Backup pylon will help restore this gateway up in the north. But this other gateway getting the sentry, that is... It's gonna have to wait a while before getting power.
It's even out of range of the second pylon as well. It's a bit of a shame there, a little bit of a mistake. But with this Void Ray, like defensively, Stats should be okay.
He should be, but as you were saying earlier, a lot of this production is just uber vulnerable.
Yeah, definitely, and Zest, he has to be careful. He has to make sure he babysits his Warp Prism, as, again, this Void Ray could try and target it down and snipe it, as there is a second Void Ray on the way as well. And I just love how he's utilizing his Stargate in this situation.
Absolutely. And, you know, once you have that second Void Ray, you know, you have twice the amount. And that means that you can start to be a bit more bold.
Definitely, and here we go. Stats, you know, being a little bit more bold there, did perk out a little bit, and he has to be careful because, again, 2 Adepts doesn't seem like much, but in the hands of Zest, like, we've seen so many probes go down already in this series.
He is the Adept King, the head librarian.
Yeah, this may not be what he wanted to be, but it is what he is. It is what he has become.
I feel like somebody's gotta keep over those books.
Indeed, and he commits to the Shade. Again, more workers are going down. 3, maybe even 4 are going to be focused down already. Nice value here for Zest.
Yeah, but Zest is a little bit more on top of his defenses this time, so he is going to be focusing down these Adepts. And, you know, Zest trying to target down the probes, but honestly, when you do that when there are 3 Adepts in the mix, you are just asking to die.
Yeah, definitely, and Stats, he has to be careful. And, oh, the Samurais Core gets focused down as well.
That is probably the biggest oof of the evening so far. He is not quite going to be rebuilding that, and behind that, we see Zest going for that Dark Shrine.
Yeah, and where's the detection? Because DTs have already been morphed in. They're already here, and there's no Oracle, there's no Robo either. Like, could this be the killing? Oh, he's trying. If the Stargate gets focused down, one of them made it in.
One of them did manage to make it in. And not really sure what happened there. Something died to at the hands of Stats, but it wasn't a DT. Again, there was no detection.
Yeah, and it looks like this Oracle will be able to come out, so there will be a Revelation available to him, but these DCs are just dealing so much damage at the moment. One will go down, hopefully it will get targeted down, and there's another in the natural.
Indeed, there is, and after that Revelation change, Stats does fortunately have enough for 2 reveals. But now he's fresh out. He is continuing to chrono out these Oracles, though, which can only help in the long run. But every time he's producing an Oracle, he's not producing a Void Ray, and even using one of the Revelations to get the Observer, meaning that one of these ETs is going to be alive for the time to come.
Yeah, 6 probes going down. This is that DT in the natural just continuing to deal more and more damage. Meanwhile, as all this is happening, Zest, you know, he's been able to take, or he's expanding. He's trying to take his natural, you know, he's macroing up.
Goes down with the DT!
Oh!
That is the power of 4 Warp Prisms.
Oh my god.
Or not Warp Prisms, Void Rays.
Good, the Void Rays, the 4 Void... Yeah, the 4 Void Rays, they took out the Warp Prism, and that just completely puts a stop to this harassment for Zest, and now it's Stats' turns to start applying a pressure.
Look at that, 42 army supply versus 26. Stats is moving across the map, and this is almost a story like game number 1. You know, Zest trying to be very aggressive. Stats showing off why he leads shield, and now going for the counterattack. Will he get driven back once again? Or
yeah, The one thing for going for Zest is that there wasn't a robo for Stats, so he doesn't have a War Prism, he doesn't have a reinforcing pylon, so the army that Stats has here, that's kind of all he has to work with at the moment. And Zest, he is trying to, establish himself defensively, and Stats actually turns around.
Yeah, he realizes that he does not want to throw away his army unnecessarily, so he is going to be relying more on his air army as a form of harass. So we'll get a mineral line here to see what defenses are up, and yeah, we got a shield battery and a pretty good amount of stalkers.
Yeah, there's some decent defense here, and I imagine there's enough energy for a recall just in case things get a little bit too scary here for this Sky army of Stats, and we'll see how he goes. He is starting to dive into the main base.
With the Void Rays, this is a pretty big risk going on. Already one of them almost taken out. But yeah, that GG is called. Prismic Alignment really helping Stats out, and now Stats is on match point.
Yeah, like the amount of DPS there was just too strong. He targeted down the shield battery, all the stalkers as well, and so many more probes would have gone down. And Zest, he just didn't really have an answer to the army of Stats.
Indeed, it was.
Wow, and
what a game.
what a game. With that, Stats, he's currently up in the series 2-0.
Yeah, one more win and he secures his place in the finals. And Zest, the top ESL Pro Tour Asia champion, will not be having another chance to defend his title.
Yeah, that he won't. Like, we're on match point. This is where Zest, he needs to turn it around. And to be fair, like, it's not like any of these games have been one-sided. Like, they've been pretty close. And even that last game, like, those GTs were looking very scary for Stats.
Well, I think the games overall looked pretty close, but I think one thing that is a little bit unsided would be Stats' decision-making, or maybe game... I'm not sure what to categorize it in, but... yeah, just the overall game sense and the decisions that Stats has made have been looking pretty good. To be fair, Zest had some good ideas, but Stats just had the edge there.
Yeah, I would say, I would call it. I would say that Stats really, he has like grace under pressure. Like, it doesn't matter what's coming.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
he didn't crumble. And speaking of not crumbling, here's a player that doesn't crumble. In the top right-hand corner map, spawning all the way in the top right-hand corner of Eternal Empire, Ile, we have the blue Protoss. He is the man who blesses the reins, the Shield himself. He has been promoted from the Director of Shield to being the actual Shield. And he is... got a question for you, Light. Are you free?
Afrika TV.
And this is the man who makes Afrika TV free. He is representing Afrika Freaks. Stats.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Eternal Empire LE, we have the Korean Protoss player currently down 0-2 in this best of 5. This is it. He needs to bring it back here, and now we have representing Raise Your Edge Gaming, RYEG. It is Zest.
Okay. Again, these are the two top Protoss players at the moment. The two players with the overall highest win rate in 2020. And so far, it's, yeah, this could be the last that we see of the two of them, at least tonight.
Yeah, like, again, I don't want this this specific series to kind of paint the picture for Zest. Like, we've seen these guys go back and forth plenty of times here in the ESL Open Cup Asia. We always bring it up how these three Protosses, Trap, Zest, Stats, they go back and forth. Some days, one player is more informed than the other. We see some rise and some fall, and here we'll see if Zest is going to get swept, which is something that I did not see coming if this does become a 3-0.
Well, it is looking to be pretty possible. This will matter pylon. That does not block anything. Come on, Stats.
It's not even like, it doesn't even block the... oh my god.
And in response, Zest goes for his own. I love my KT voice.
Oh boy.
Such as the SKT boys and the Slice boys, but
I mean, there's some overlap, right? Like, you know, TY.
yeah. Was anyone on SKT ever on KT?
I don't think that was allowed. I think that was.
Yeah.
that was
some
some,
yellow both forbade.
That's some taboo right there. We don't allow that to happen.
Because I mean, like towards the end of Pro League, there were things like player loans, right? That's how you got Lenok playing on KT while he was still a part of, I want to say, MVP.
I think he actually did join KT.
Ah.
I think that did happen. But
Well.
yeah, there were some hybrid teams. If I recall, Yaoi Flash Wolves, like the team that San and Parting were on, they partnered with Startail maybe. Like there were a couple of partnerships here and there. Invictus Gaming as well, like Jim, like he came out and played.
Yeah, I mean, even if you want to go really far back, right? You had EG Slayers. That's what
I thought you were going to say EGTL, which was
EGTL.
also a thing. Yeah.
That was a lot older. And nice little force field here by Stats. Zest forced to recall. Ooh. Stats really saying, yeah, you are not getting a single adept into my base anymore. I have had enough. I am going into my +1 and getting Blink. We will be settling this on the field as gentlemen. We will be settling this with Blink Stalkers.
I've had it up to here with your adept, Zest. Enough. It hasn't worked. Stop it. I was
a captain before. You will listen to me.
And we'll see as Zest. He still has a couple of adepts out on the map, but it does look like he isn't committing with them. He's returning back home as Zest. He is the first player to expand and go for that third base.
Yeah, which may or may not backfire. Now, here's what I gotta say, Light. Stats getting a third base is a lot more vulnerable. Rather than Zest getting a third base.
Yeah, Zest has been known to be the aggressor in this series, period. He's the first to push out and to engage. So yeah, we'll see if this third base, if he intends to saturate it, or if it's, a bit more of a fake out, and he commits to something more of like a 2-base push. So far, like, there isn't too much production here for Zest, so there's nothing really too telling, nothing too crazy, as both players are working on their upgrades, working on Blink. As you were saying, a gentleman's agreement in Game 3. This is a little bit more chill, a little more calm, collected.
Being on Eternal Empire, I think, also plays into that favor a little bit. Maybe unconscious, maybe conscious, but yeah, either way, Eternal Empire will facilitate that gentleman's agreement.
Yeah, definitely. As it is known as like the most macro map in the entire map pool.
Yeah. And speaking of gentlemen, Stat's actually going to be the first one to Tekken the Robo Bay. Now, I imagine Zest is probably going to get a Templar Archives fairly soon, but yeah, it's just interesting to note that Stats is going for Disruptors, or maybe even Colossus, God heaven forbid, as opposed to before going for Archons.
Yeah, you were thinking of like players or situations where Colossus have come out in PvP, and to me anyway, there may be another, but Probe, from recent memory, he's been the one to go for that. And he's an agent of Shield, right? Like maybe he could influence his boss, but
I mean, just earlier today we've seen he's been influenced a little bit by Hydra agents, and that's a lot of gateways.
Oh my. That's a gateway explosion if I've ever seen one. So Zest looking to apply some pressure. He's actually getting a fourth base at the same time, which is quite interesting. Meanwhile, Stats is the one going for those disruptors. Zest actually getting a Stargate.
Is Zest actually thinking long term? Is he actually thinking of going into the late game Sky Toss? Maybe he's looking to invest. Like, I mean, in PvP we often see Protoss players at least get an Oracle just to tag armies. But yeah, I'm curious to see, especially because Zest is going for that fourth base. Like,
we got to keep an eye on that production tab to see if like if Leaping gets thrown down, the second Stargate gets thrown down.
I think it's happening, and there's that Stargate light. Zest is looking to give us that golden armada that we have been starved for. It feels like so long that we've seen that come out, and especially in PvP. Well, I say that, but Yodasil probably remembers fondly, or not fondly, but remembers vividly.
Yeah, it's important. You keep bringing up Yodasim. I was there. I still remember it. Of course, we are harkening back to the TSL qualifiers. What? Oh,
Stats is doing it! Stats
He's doing it! He's
and
corrupted!
No holds barred!
Oh, no. I honestly, I don't think it's the right call. Like, if we were focusing on ground-based armies... Yeah, if we were focused on ground-based armies, then sure, Colossus, go for it. But Zest, he is looking to eventually transition into that Sky Toss, into those carriers, into those Tempests. And we'll see how this goes, because again, Zest, he got his 4th base a while ago. Stats only just now expanding.
Mothership already on the way. We are seeing an anomaly in PvP right now, Light. I don't even know what to say.
My God, I just...
Every logic has completely been thrown out the window. Both players defying convention, giving us a real show here on Eternal Empire.
Okay, I was just quickly checking. If you do look at Stats' vision, he has actually scouted the Fleet Beacon. Yeah, he knows what he's up against, but he's still committing to this ground army, which is perplexing me. As I guess maybe Stats is looking to get this incredibly beefy army first, push out, and maybe try and end the game or deal enough damage before that Sky Toss comes into play.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one way that you can play it, right? If you're behind in terms of the air composition, you can just try to get as good of a ground army as you can, clear out whatever you can on the ground, and then focus on the air. So that's definitely a way of playing it, but it is a lot more, it requires a lot more attention and focus.
Yeah, and there we go. I was curious to see if Zest was going to get a ground army first trade and then go into that Sky Toss, but already Tempests are on the way. And because of this, Zest, technically he will have the superior army, but will he get caught in this transition period before he has enough Tempests to really deal with the amount of Colossus and Disruptors there are for Stats?
He's going up to 5 Colossus. He's pulling a probe light.
He's doing it. He's going to be pushing out. And again, like, there is this window of opportunity before Zest has that Sky Toss army, that golden armada. But like that window is closing and getting... Yeah, it's getting smaller and smaller as the game progresses. So Stats, he has to pull the trigger soon.
He really does. I think he is going to... Even bringing out the Colossus in a Warp Prism. Thermal Lance is finished up. +3 is gonna be finished up pretty soon for both players, actually. Faster for Zest. And this is pretty much do or die right now for Stats. Well, I mean, he could always retreat, but at the same time, he'll just be perpetually playing catch-up. And here we go. Extended Thermal Lance really showing what it can get done. The Archons are starting to come into play. The Stalker's not quite in position to take out the Sky Army. And Zest, it looks like he's going to be chasing this back.
Yeah, he does push the army back, and I'm not even too sure if Stats even has detection with this army at the moment, as the Mothership Core is covering everything. And again, the Tempests are just kind of raining down on this army. Does Zest have enough here?
Caught in the time warp. Stats just has not enough anti-air to deal with this, but he is slowly chipping away at that mothership, but it's not quite going to be enough. That really briefy ground army of Stats that we were really hyping up does not compare. Not when there are this many Immortals and this many Tempests and this many Zealots on the ground. Stats just got wiped out.
Exactly, and with that, we do see Zest. He didn't lose any of his Tempest, any of that golden armor. Why? Stats, stop! He's committing! He's committing to the ground army!
Well, okay,
like,
if this was any other player, I'd be with you there, Light, but, this is Stats. He probably has a plan, right?
Like, he should have a plan. Like, Stats knows what he's doing, but is what he's doing correct? Like, is there a glitch in the Matrix? Like, what is Stats doing right now? He's committing to the ground army, which, like, he's getting more and more Archons to help support the Colossus, which they can do well, but Archons have such short range. To be fair, Zest, he stopped making Sky Toss. Like, there's only 3 Tempests, there's no more.
But at the same time, Tempest That's the longest range Protoss unit going up against Archons, the shortest range non-melee unit, I should say. And now here comes the second clash, and to be fair, these Colossus are going to help a ton. This is mostly a Zealot-based army with a couple of Archons, and it's not just the Zealots that, or it's not just the bonus versus light that helps out this army, but the range of the Colossus that help against the Archons as well. But now the Tempest really showing what they can get done. Stats not focusing down the air army once again. The Zealots just really raining on in. Actually blinks backwards with these Stalkers into Colossus range, which is a pretty good move.
Yeah, the Tempest is trying to target down the Colossus, and they get the Warp. No, the Warp Prism stays alive, and the Micro is good enough where I think Stats may have enough, but the Tempest is still just raining down on this army, gone unimpeded.
Yeah, not just the Tempest, but the Immortals really helping out against the Stalkers. I think we're gonna get a game number 4 here, like GG is called. Zest fights back.
Wow. Wow, and with that we see Zest. He does indeed fight back. He brings it back. He doesn't get swept 3-0. He is putting up a fight, and again, I have to question Stats' decision making there. He saw those Stargates and the Fleet Beacon early on. He saw them, and he's like, "Yo, I know how I'm gonna deal with this."
The one unit that cannot shoot up and gets targeted down by every air unit doesn't even matter.
It's not even just a ground army that doesn't shoot up. It's a unit that takes bonus damage from the Tempest.
It does, because you're massive.
It does. The Tempest
and
still bonus damage.
To be fair, I'm not sure if Stats noticed or not, but there were also a good number of Immortals in that ground army of Zest, and yeah, here we go. Stats in all caps. Go! He is looking to make up for that map. Here on game number 4.
Like again, Stats. I don't know what he was doing there. I questioned it, but he made it close regardless. Like the engagements were fairly close, but we're in game 5. Sorry, game 4.
We're in game 4. We are indeed in game number 4, and here we are now. Gonna be spawning in onto Def LE. We're in the top left-hand corner of the map, spawning in the top left-hand corner of the map. The player who just died, and he's coming back from the grave. He is the player currently on match point. Gonna be the blue Protoss coming down all the way from Korea. Blessing the rains down in Africa. He is representing Africa Freaks. We have Stats.
And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Death Aura LE. Yaku, I'm gonna need some water after the series.
That game is just so hype.
Oh my god. We have the other Korean Protoss player representing Raise Your Edge Gaming, RYEG. It is Zest.
Okay, I gotta tell you, Light, we were pretty hyped because game number 1 was really close. We were hyped because the game number 2 was really close. When looking at these, and again, these are the 2 top Protoss players and the top PvP players of the current year. I want more games like game number 3.
Look,
maybe not necessarily like game number 3, but you know.
we meme about it, peak PvP, but this is peak PvP.
Yeah, both
right
literally
here.
And memely.
Oh boy, yeah, and these two have just been going at it, and again, like, Eternal Empire is unique in that it does favor more macro play. It's easier to expand, it's larger, it takes longer for armies to push out across the map, so we did have a bit of a longer game. Zest utilized that to his advantage, took a very fast 4th base, he was very greedy, teched up, got that Sky Toss. I don't think we're going to see another game quite like that, but regardless, like, this has been pretty close each and every single one of these games. We'll see how this game plays out.
That will have to be the question. Just trying to get as much vision as he can, getting that spotter on outside of his base. Actually, might even bamboozle us a little bit into thinking he's doing something deadly.
Yeah, and we've spoken about it. Something as old as time, even older than time. 21 years old. We have Stargate versus Robo.
I thought you were gonna go into like I thought you were gonna say Cyril or something. I was like, oh yeah, Cyril, 2 years old at the time. Or Neeb.
And both these players, they're older than time as well.
Not the rising star in Clem though.
That is accurate. Clem is not as old as time.
He is not. I'll keep it very brief because we're currently casting the series, but man, he took Cyril to the ace match. I wasn't able to watch that because I was trying to go to bed, but I'm gonna have to watch a VOD at some point.
Yeah, unfortunately, like to viewers who may be tuning in for the first time, both Yaku and I, we are based in Australia and Singapore, like Southeast Asia. So, yeah, it's a little bit difficult to catch those EU or even NA events. We have to kind of ruin our sleep schedule to do that. Korean events, though, like this is very nicely timed for us.
It's exactly right up our alley. And speaking of up our alley, so far we're getting another macro game.
Yeah, and we'll see as the Oracle is going to be diving into the main base of stats. We'll see how much damage this can get done. The shield battery isn't quite done yet.
Yep, and the Stalkers were far, far away. Only these sentries right now is the anti-air. Stats playing a very positional game right now, wanting to make sure that no matter where the Oracle goes, these Stalkers are going to be able to jump on it.
Yeah, and 4 probes do go down. Stats, he did get a bit of hull damage there to the Oracle, so nicely done there. Maybe able to pick it off later on as it does have less health. And yeah, Stats, he's actually pushing out with his Immortal. This is very bold, especially because we have Phoenixes on the way.
That we do have Phoenixes on the way. 4 sentries are in the Warp Prism. Are you thinking what I'm thinking, Light?
He's gonna go into the main, he's gonna force field the ramp!
He's pulling a Max Angel. Well, that's gonna be quite tricky to do when, as you said, the Phoenixes are gonna be out in play.
Yeah, it's gonna be difficult to pull off. We'll see if this is what he's gonna go for, as, again, the sentries are here, the Immortal is on its way, we have a good, decent number of gateway units. I'm a little bit concerned because Stats, he doesn't have too much here with him, and, you know, there are plenty of shield batteries for Zest.
Yeah, plenty of shield batteries, plenty of Adepts, which are a unit that do surprisingly well against Immortals. But if you look at that, force fields that ramp, make sure that half of the ground army cannot come into play. Zest though also making sure that nice little lifts here on top of the Phoenixes, and none of them have gone down. I want to point that out. Stats was unable to focus on them, and warping in right in front of the Phoenixes. That is a risk. Loses the Warp Prism, but does manage to get a couple of units out. And Gemini, thank you very much for the raid, man. we will be casting Trap vs. Cure after the series is concluded, so stick around for that. But for now, Stats is in a bit of a pickle here against Zest.
Yeah, he lost his Warp Prism, he lost his Immortals as well. Everything is going down here for Stats, and
GG, Zest, bring it to the ace match.
Yeah, again, so it was honestly kind of surprising to see Stats be the aggressor of this game and pushing out across the map. Like, it was, again, very, very bold of him to do so. You were pointing out how the Phoenixes, none of them had went down because Stats, he was actually focusing down the Oracles. He focused both down before the Phoenixes. I'm not too sure if that was intentional, but yeah, because of that, the War Prism was very vulnerable.
Very much was. And now we're going to go into the ace match. Which one of these players are going to be making it into the finals to face, if Chad is to be believed, to face Trap and lose to Trap?
Yeah, of course, if people are not too familiar, Gemini, he is the #1 hype man for Trap's biggest fanboy. And yeah, it was really cool to see. Like, normally Gemini, I think he's working at around this time, but yeah, he was able to play today and stream, and yeah, thank you so much for the raid.
Very much so. So you're gonna have to turn down your beef attempts, Light.
We're only just starting with that, Yaku. Not in the Trap series yet.
Oh, well then, alrighty. We are now gonna be spawning into Ice and Chrome for the final match of this PvP semifinals. Or the final map, sorry. We are gonna be spawning in on the bottom left-hand corner of the map, all the way in the bottom left-hand corner. where we will in fact look at the blue Protoss coming down all the way from the land of Korea. He is... I got a question for you, Light. Are you free?
Afrika TV.
And this is the man who I imagine is just holding up the Afrika servers. He is representing Afrika Freaks. He is Stats, boys. Well,
and spawning in the top right-hand corner of Ice and Chrome LE, we have the Korean Protoss player currently tied up 2-2, as this is the ace match. We have representing Raise Your Edge Gaming, RYEG. It is Zest.
alright, what are we gonna see in the ace match here, Light? Are they gonna be safe, or are they... I feel like as the series goes on, Stats is kind of moving more and more. Both players really are moving more and more into peak PvP territory.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned for Stats. Again, it's almost a rarity to see Stats be the aggressor. As you know, typically in the series he has been more defensive, and last game we just see it didn't really work out for him. And yeah, this is kind of close. Again, like Stats, he started off the series incredibly strong with the 2-0, but Zest has been able to claw his way back.
Indeed, he was, and is he going to be able to make it all the way here? Now, I will say though that in these previous two games that we've seen, it did come down a little bit to Zest just capitalizing on mistakes that Stats has made. So, yeah, if Stats, if he's able to refine himself once more before hitting into the ace match, I think it will be a bit tougher for Zest, but we'll see. Zest might just be warming up.
Yeah, again, like these two are they are professionals. Like I can't imagine that they're too swayed or affected by the course of this series. This is it. This is the ace match. They've been here before, even in like offline events. So we'll see how they're able to shape up here in this final game in Game 5. And yes, other people pointing out in the chat, unfortunately, everyone missed the game on Eternal Empire, the Golden Armada game. That was amazing. Oh my god. Check the VOD.
We talk a lot about Stargate versus Robo, but that game really took that to another level.
I was about to say, if you want to tune into Stats going Mars Colossus against Tempest, then that's the game for you. God damn
we
it,
couldn't
Stats.
even believe it.
To be fair, that could be like the beginning of the end for Stats. Like he may have lost his mind in that game. Like that game may have broken him mentally.
Yeah, Shield can only take so much before it starts to crack, and that might just have been what happened there.
Yeah, that may be what we're seeing, or maybe Stats is able to calm down, able to focus on what he is known for. So far this game we're seeing Robo against. We do have a Twilight Council coming out for Zest.
And sometimes you really do have to shake out the crazy in you, when you have the opportunity. Otherwise you'll never know when it might peak its head in.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of Protoss players can relate.
This is more of what we're used to, right? Stats is the first player to expand, to take his natural. He is focusing on his economy. Meanwhile, Zest, he threw down that Twilight Council, and we see what it is for. It's 4 DTs.
And this is the Zest that we're familiar with.
Yeah, we'll see if this works better for him than game, I believe it was number 2, where on Pillars of Gold, where he went for DTs. And to be fair, the DTs were dealing decent damage, but Zest just couldn't close it out after that.
Yeah, and if he doesn't use them offensively, defensively, DTs are going to help a lot, especially when you don't have a lot of detection. As Stats is looking to move out once again with a bunch of sentries and a bunch of stalkers. He can't, can he?
he needs to calm down. Like, he just expanded, and I think a big difference, like when we compare games, is that when that happened there wasn't a Robo for Stats. So there is a Robo this time. He should be able to get out an observer for detection just in case. He doesn't have to rely on oracles and on energy to try and deal with those DTs.
Yeah, that's always something that energy, while it can regenerate, that's always going to be finite in the heat of things. We do see stats once again going into that Robo Bay. I can't imagine he's going Colossus once more, so we're probably going to be seeing a more of a disruptor battle.
Yeah, I mean,
stats does not shy away from.
Even when he did go Colossus, I believe he went Disruptors first and then eventually into Colossus, so, you know, it is more of a transition, and, ooh, Zest has to be careful.
Yeah, he does, almost moving his Warp Prism into these Stalkers, but now that the two Immortals are out, where the Immortals of stats, they are in this Warp Prism biz. And they were able to chase away the drop of stats, but not before getting a couple of Stalkers and depowering a heck of a lot of production facilities.
Yeah. I mean, these two gateways, it isn't the biggest thing in the world to have them depowered, but regardless, like, it was really nicely done by Zest, able to find some damage here and there with the double immortal drop, and yeah, like, it hasn't ended. He is trying to find his way into the natural as well.
Yeah, he is, and he has been able to find it. Gets a couple more probes, but will be chased off once again. Meanwhile, stats, he is pulling another probe, going for those disruptor drops.
That he is. We have a Soul Disruptor in this Warp Prism heading across the map, and you know, Zest has been able to deal some decent damage with his Immortals. Now it's on stats to try and deal some damage with his Disruptors, and he has to be careful not to get caught out.
He really does, but with, you know, Warp Prism speed, it does make it a little bit easier on him. Zest, very proactive, will be putting Stalkers in position there. But now Sass is moving out. He decides, you know, I can't get any harassment done, but you know what? That's not a lot of ground army they've got. One Nova. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah, and speaking of all it takes, like, Zest has a Disruptor of his own as well, so these two have to be so careful, especially since neither player has finished Blink. But Zest, his is almost done.
It is almost done, and he's even getting Warp Prism speed as well as stats, so yeah, this can just come down to a battle of both of them having the same tools. Who's going to utilize them better?
Oh, and there we go. The first Disruptor Nova shot has been utilized for Zest. It is on cooldown currently, so there's a little bit of opportunity here for stats. See how he utilizes it.
Yeah, right now playing it out very, very cautiously, trying to go into the main. I like this very much, knowing that he cannot fight in that natural base. The Sim City of Zest helping out a lot, and one Disruptor of stats already goes down. Might actually lose his Warp Prism.
Oh, he has to be careful. He has to keep it there, and yeah, I imagine try and recall it safely, as at the moment it is trapped.
Yeah, he plays later.
He does play later. Oh boy, and maybe that's a sign to come, as stats, you know, his army does retreat, he does back off, and he is expanding behind this. So Zest, he was able to defend quite nicely, and we'll see what he's able to do as he is looking to counterattack.
He is very much indeed. This might have been a bit of a wrong time for oh my god, stats, you cannot escape the Colossus, can you? Even when you don't make them.
I don't know if that was intentional, but it's there,
I think
and
it's
it
just
is
fate.
Yeah, it's waddling across the map. He does face the army. He does spot the army of Zest, so he is aware of its position. He's aware that Zest is out in the middle of the map, so stats just have to be careful. You do see both players rotating around.
Yeah, and neither of them being caught out.
Yeah, and Zest, we see him. Oh god!
His Disruptor drop does get a lot of damage done. 8 probes already going down. Disruptors stay alive. Unfortunately, the Warp Prism does get taken out.
Yeah, already worth it here. Like, even though Stats was the first player to go for those Disruptors drops, Zest was the first player to draw blood here and actually get some decent damage done. So Zest looking pretty good so far. Oh, but the armies are starting to meet here.
They are. Both of them sending out a couple of Purification Novas, just trying to zone out one another. This Purification Nova's getting close. Does not manage to land.
Yeah, you have to be so careful. Both players on a knife's edge. They both have Blink available for their Stalkers, so that will come into play here. And they both have a pretty decent amount of Disruptors as well.
Yeah, both just about even, but honestly, sometimes all it takes is one Nova. And they are, this is kind of a dangerous game right now with stats, and yeah, it's actually so tricky right now. You know, you have a choke point like this here. You don't want to be leading with your Disruptors because you leave them way too vulnerable, but you don't want to be leading with too many Stalkers either, because otherwise your Disruptors are just out of range.
Yeah, and you do have to be a little bit careful here. More disruption shots are going off, but the blinks are on point for Stats. And really, Stats, he's just looking to contain. Like, I don't think he's looking to try and commit to anything, as at the moment, Stats, if you recall, he was the first player to expand. He has that much higher worker count, so he's taking advantage of his economy, and he's keeping Zest at home. So, yeah, Stats, he's just taking advantage of that economy.
Yeah. Making sure that, but it is a little bit of a hard task, a bit of a hard ask to contain a player on 3 bases. You get a lot of economy there. Warp Prism does go down, and I actually just noticed this, but Zest going into +3, where Stats +2 not quite done yet. But you know what? Purification Nova does not care about upgrades.
That it does not, and Zest, he was looking to try and deal some damage. He was able to get that Warp Prism, but took a huge hit, and now he is forced back. So again, Stats defending it quite well, and it looks like the game is just continuing. Both players working on their upgrades. Zest has to be careful with these Stalkers, make sure he doesn't get surrounded or lose too much.
Yeah, already losing a couple, bleeding out his Stalker supply. And to be fair, losing Stalkers is not the end of the world for any player.
Yeah.
They're relatively cheap once you get to this phase of the game, but yeah, you will have to be worried, right? Because that's going to be your main buffer against disruptors. And speaking of disruptors, they're so vulnerable. Blind is so vulnerable. Stats bounces on top of them, loses a handful of Stalkers, but takes out so many disruptors. Well worth it, IMO. And look at that. Already the army supplies are just about even. Stats or Zest pulling ahead right now. But that was huge.
Yeah, you were just talking about how Stalkers are kind of negligible. Like, what's important are these high-tech gas units, the robo units, and already Zest losing so many of his disruptors there, just accidentally leaving them exposed. And in that moment, Stats found an opportunity, killed so many of them, and now well ahead in that army.
Wow, indeed. Technically even an army supply, or even lower, but again, he's got his disruptors alive. Zest is relying mainly on Immortal Stalker at the moment. Yeah, rebuild the disruptor count.
He is making 2 disruptors at a time. I mean, both are actually with both their robos, and they have to be so careful here. Stats, he does have the higher disruptor count, but again, like, it all comes down to these disruptor shots. Like, at any moment, like, a good one could go off, and you could just lose your entire army.
All right, we're seeing a bit of a deviation right now. Zealots being thrown into the mix here. I actually really like that for Stats. It works out really well in a a disruptor versus disruptor scenario, because they just hug onto the opponent's army. You're gonna have to do some friendly fire, or if not, lose units to the Zealots. And a massive warp in here into the main base of Zest. 14 probes already going down, and there's a lot more of that to come. This 4th base is gonna have to be forfeit. And all right, in the end, Zest. Zest forfeiting not just at 4th base, but the entire game. Stats gonna be going up into the finals after looking like he might actually get reverse swept.
I kind of wanted to get into it as you were talking, but yeah, like, the Warp Prism was able to sneak into the main base of Zest. A huge warping of Zealots was able to just completely pull him apart. He killed so many probes. He pulled the army into the main base, and that left his 4th exposed. And that's when Stats went in. He found an opportunity. He killed the base, and Zest, he was just all over the place. Like, losing that base, it meant that his he was trying to take a 5th base as well behind this, which was also exposed and cut off. Like, Zest, like, Stats was able to just completely pull him apart there in those final moments.
That is so key. That was absolutely key there. Just I guess not just the multi-pronging, but knowing exactly when and how to split your opponent's attention like that. Liked it.
Yeah, it was, it was actually really insane that he was able to do that, just finding this one opportunity for the Warp Prism to go in. And GG, Stats takes out Zest and advances on to the finals.
Yeah, and you said you were gonna go get some water after the series?
Yeah, I'm just going to make sure that we get into a lobby first, so I don't get left out of it.
Good point.
So yes, we are going to be starting with Trap versus Cure, TVP, And I'm sure there's a lot of people, a lot of Gemini fans who are looking forward to that. You know, Trap, of course, being one of the best Protosses, and Cure, like one of the highest performing Terrans in this weekly series.
Absolutely, definitely contender. You know, he's amongst that short. He's amongst those players who you can count on your hand right now, right? Who is the top Protoss player currently? And it's not quite clear cut, but you know, very much so you can count Stats, Zest, Parting, and Trap